Hello, I'm here to talk a little bit about eating disorders and some of the issues that one might face as a social worker. That would be good to know. I have had some experience interacting with social workers because I dealt with some abuse in my childhood, and I have anorexia, and that's what I'm going to be talking about primarily. So, um, hi, Lana. My kitty's here. She's always gets coming when she hears me talk. Sorry. You can edit this if you want to, obviously. Okay, as a social worker, things you should know is that you are more likely to encounter clients with eating disorders. While it's not a universal phenomenon, most, or I should say, a significant degree of individuals with eating disorders have been assaulted or abused, especially, or gone through some other trauma as a child, a divorce, loss of a parent, or maybe the family moves. Regardless, like there's many triggers that can be the final straw. In a predisposition toward eating disorder, we know now that there is a genetic predisposition, and that society and media play a role, and then some trigger kind of sets the disorder into motion. Probably I think the strongest reason that this is true is that it's important to understand eating disorders aren't about food so much as about coping. Many who engage in eating disordered behaviors do so because they know no better way to cope. In oversimplifying the world and putting all of their focus onto the one thing they have absolute control over, and that is what goes in their mouth. Can be the only thing they feel safe and autonomous about without outside factors influencing that. It's completely an autonomous endeavor. So that's probably the impetus for people to develop eating disorders. It gives them a way to suppress emotions, to deal with significant psychotrauma regardless of the cause. So I just want to say that, like, even after, if you are placing somebody in foster care, even after they're placed, please don't get complacent about them being safe, because foster homes are really difficult places to be, and foster parents could be in it for the wrong reasons. You can't assume that, and I do know that many altruistic, benevolent individuals are excellent foster care providers. But in my case, when I was in a foster home, the girls there, it was only girls, and they were all very close and had been together for some time. And I didn't fit in even in my own neighborhood, so I certainly didn't fit in there, and it was even more stressful and awkward. So I could see like that being a major trigger for some people. As regarding the demographics, we're seeing more younger and younger patients today than ever before. Girls as young as 8 are now developing eating disorders. Just some statistics to give you an idea how critical this issue is. 42% of first to third grade girls want to be thinner. 81% of 10-year-olds are afraid of getting fat. And as far as college-age students, there was a survey done on a college campus, and 91% of the women there reported trying to lose weight by dieting. And 35% of people who just go on a diet to lose weight will descend into disordered eating behaviors. And 20 to 25% of those will go on to developing overt EDs. On any given day, 25% of men and 45% of women in the United States are dieting. This is a big deal. Eating disorders transcend geography and socioeconomic status. I run a website for adults with restrictive eating disorders, and we have members from many nations. Second, there's this big misconception that it's only affluent, rich, adolescent, white girls. It's not true. This myth has probably been perpetuated because of previous views on the disorder, that it was a spoiled, poor little rich girl mentality. Hildebruch wrote The Golden Cage, and this was probably it's in modern study one of the most famous accounts, and in it she does perpetuate this myth that anorexia is enigmatic and only plagues rich white girls, which it's not the case at all. And socioeconomic status is not true either. There are plenty of people who are not well off who also develop eating disorders in many nations. The media also perpetuates these myths about who's affected. It's very sensationalistic, and people, thinness is the coveted ideal in Western culture, and even girls in China and Japan now. So it's not just Western culture. I mean, it's everywhere in the world. I have members from all over the world on my site, so it's a big deal. And they're not all little girls. Like, my site is adults only. I'm 35 years old. We have people over 50 there. So please don't rule somebody out if they're not a privileged white girl, Another critical issue is that one does not have to be emaciated to be sick. There are people who die from eating disorders who are either overweight or normal weight. People can die from electrolyte disturbances, from either hardcore restriction or purging. They can also die, like bulimics who binge can die of gastric rupture. I mean, there are very serious risks, and you don't have to be underweight to be in critical need of help. Also, treatment needs to happen as early as possible. These eating disorders manifest like it's like a demonic possession. Like, you'll hear sufferers personify their eating disorder. Like, some people refer to it as a female named Anna or a male named Ed. Like ED for Ed, whatever, Anna for anorexia. Because it does. It feels like there's this presence inside of you, and that voice talks to you, whispering in the background of every conscious moment, telling you what to do, what to feel, what to think, how to eat, and it becomes your aggressor, it becomes your master, and takes over your life. And the longer the disease goes on, the more serious this is. So this problem definitely needs to be addressed as early as possible. So don't discount somebody who is very young or very old even, or who isn't thin. Probably one of the most damaging things I've heard anorexic people tell me is, my doctor or my friend or whoever told me I don't look sick. You don't have to look sick. You don't just get sick when you get thin. You can be big and still kill yourself. So treatment early is critical for that reason. This does happen to boys also. Boys and men account for 10% of the cases. In America, the estimates are that between 5 and 10 million girls and women and 1 million boys and men are suffering from anorexia. And also, 60 to 75%, even with treatment, don't get better. So it's critical that they get help as soon as possible. The long-standing ED is pretty much uncurable at that point. We have to switch to a management approach to help them. And it's very hard because the disease will take over your everything, your personality, everything. Um, the longer it's in place, and at some point it is very difficult for the clinician or the individual to differentiate self from pathology, to distinguish personality and eating disorder. The consciousness takes over and it destroys the individual. So please, please, if you think somebody needs help, talk to them, refer them, whatever, and encourage them to really fight. It can take years to recover, but some can. And it's so important. I can't stress that enough. Your role as a social worker with eating disorder individuals would be empowerment, work on coping skills. This is the essential thing. The reason eating disorders manifest is that the sufferer is feeling completely tossed about in a sea during a tempest with no life raft and no support and no other way to cope. Time and time again, eating disorder sufferers will say, I know this is bad for me, but I don't know any other way or anything that works as well. So, esteem strengthening, empowerment, encouragement, support, building a new foundation for self-confidence. And this is for adults and kids alike. Don't assume that just because somebody's an adult that they've learned these skills, that they've learned how to self-soothe, that they've learned how to endure stress in a healthy manner. So imparting skills is critical. And also networking with that individual's care team if and when possible. I think I have another note here. Nope. Oh yeah, wait, okay, here. What to say and what not to say to somebody with an eating disorder. As much as it may encourage you if somebody's starting to get better, don't say, wow, you look really great, or you look really healthy, or you don't look as sick as last time. And this may be the most difficult thing for people outside of eating disorder pathology to understand, but to an anorexic, that translates to failure, that translates to not being good at one's eating disorder. It can be very triggering and actually make people sicker. So be careful with compliments about appearance. They may sound beautiful and they may be well meaning to you, but that is not how an anorexic will receive the message. So that's my piece on that. I wish you all luck, and I wish to thank each of you who's going into this field because people need you. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and for all of us who have been helped and will be helped by social workers. Thank you.